Hello, and welcome to Afternoon Family Painting. I am Timmy, and this is how I painted Starry Night, which is a blend of Van Gogh and the Hollywood Hills. I speed up the video and include a marker when. This is so you can pause and play as you need for each step. I sketched out where I wanted the hills, stars, and lights to go before painting the whole canvas in a watery gold color. Make sure to cover the whole canvas. Mix up crisscross strokes, long left to right strokes. Just do whatever you have to do to cover the whole canvas. Here you'll see I rotate the canvas in order to paint the edges for hanging later. If you are using the canvas board, you do not need to do this. Once it dries, you should still be able to see your lines, but sketch out more where you need to. The first step is to start painting a line of light blue brush strokes. I follow my line along the curl I already started. As I go, I make sure not to put any brushes where the light beam will be to start. As I went though, I decided to put a few and just thin out the space between brush strokes. Once one line is finished, all the way to the curl of your star, it is time to move up and start a new line and repeat this process until the whole sky is filled. Just kidding. Not really. This artwork may seem hard and tedious, but that is only from the repetitive nature of painting the sky one stroke at a time. You can be as slow and as patient as you would like, or as fast and as free as you feel. I use a semi-larger round brush so that way I can get a variation in stroke sizes. Some are very big, while others are very small. I like it this way so I don't have to change brushes 100 times. To get this brush, or any brush, to a point, simply twirl the brush clockwise as you drag it across your palette, then repeat counterclockwise and alternate until you have a pointed tip. This will also collect paint towards the tip. After you've started one band of light blue, it is time to add some dark navy blue to give the feeling of depth in the night sky. Make sure to leave a space blank where the clouds and the moon and the stars will go. Continue this method until this entire sky is covered except for where those elements will be. Here you can see how slowly I was painting at the beginning, until I realized how long it would take to go at this pace. So I slowly began to pick up my speed by making bigger brush strokes and also not caring if my lines were perfect. Some lines would become 2, go back into 1. But once the whole sky was covered, it was hard to tell where I had messed up. The most important part is to not give up. This is the hardest, most tedious stage to cover the whole sky background. Everything gets easier and easier as you go along. Once the whole sky is covered in the first layer of a light blue and a navy blue, it is time to pick a blue in between those two colors that you can go over the entire sky with more brush strokes. This time, you will vary smaller and larger brush strokes and ones that have less structure in their line work than the first round. After the medium blue is added, repeat this step with black, using the uniform colors across both bands of blue will blend them slightly and blur the lines between the two bands of color. This is where you can get as fancy and add even more various blues to the sky. Or add thousands. Once ready to move on from the blue, it will be time to add the white of the stars, the moon, and the clouds. The yellow background we put down will allow for more pop when you put on the white of the stars. So using some water, you can let some of that yellow bleed through to create textures in your brushstrokes. Continuing the one stroke at a time method, paint the stars, the clouds, the moon, and some streaks in the sky to add highlights. Do this using alterations between yellow, white, and some off-white colors. You will want to leave a dark blue and a little black in the clouds to create the shadow and puffiness of the clouds. The use of white and yellow brushstrokes randomly in the sky will create the illusion of the twinkle of the other stars that you are not highlighting in the twirls. Now to start on the land, where things get a little easier, I chose to cover everything in a watery and translucent green to allow the yellow to create highlights and textures and cover the area much quicker. Next, I create dark patches of landscape in a similar way as I painted the sky, creating bands of light and dark green. I chose to use longer, more continuous brushstrokes to create more of a landscape and ground effect. Just like in the sky, leave a blank space where the lights and the Hollywood sign will go. Put in some small, thin brush strokes where the lights cross over the landscape to create the illusion of light passing over it. Blend some dark green strokes into the light green area and vice versa before using some gold, and white to highlight the whole stretch of hills. Mixing in some small uses of white will really make the landscape pop off of your artwork. Now it is time to start adding in some light beams. The one in the bottom right is closer and more bright, so I did not let any background strokes come through. And I started to put down some white before realizing I would want my hand to rest here to work on the other lights. And so I switched over and worked on the other two light beams. The next beams intersect, so I start with the one and put on white before mixing in a little blue to gray it out and create streaks in the light. Next, I start with the beam where it intersects, so I can make the highlights layer over each other and create a matrix of where the beams would be interacting. After covering all the beams with white to get their base colors in, I begin to put orange into the vertical beam to create depth and color to the light, while adding back over some white streaks to create highlights. I then add yellow to the other beam and try to vary where the lines interact so it looks like the beams are going through each other. The last beam I decide to make more of a red and pink with a watered down red, and then layering back and forth between the red, the pink, and the white. The home stretch is coming, and it is time to paint in the lettering of the Hollywood sign. Hopefully you have left it blank so you see where you want the letters to go. If not, dry your canvas and paint them as best you can. Make sure to sign your artwork when you have completed. Thank you for joining us for this star-studded version of Afternoon Family Painting. Again, my name is Timmy from Graphic Rehab. You can see more at graphicrehab.com or subscribe to Graphic Rehab in the Great Divide Campground. Thank you and have a great day.